Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of the Teacup for One Robin Williams movie marathon. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees. Here we are. It's week 4, I think. Normally the movie marathons run like 4 weeks-ish, but Robin Williams, there are just so many good movies that we had to do a couple extra. Not to mention the fact that we kind of unofficially started with Hook. So it's been almost 2 months of Robin Williams goodness, and the movies just keep getting, I don't want to say better and better, because every Robin Williams movie is great in its own way, but they just get progressively just as good as the next. And I think very few actors have a body of work where you can say that. So excited because tonight we were talking about a movie that I didn't realize was so many people's favorite Robin Williams movie. There it is. So we are of course discussing The Birdcage with Robin Williams, but this is the crazy thing with The Birdcage. This cast is insane. It is one of the best cast movies ever, because just Robin Williams is normally enough to get my love and my attention, but it's Robin Williams, Nathan Lane, Christine Baranski, Diane Wiest. Oh, I love Diane Wiest. She is a gem and a joy. Gene Hackman, Clarissa Flockhart, Hank Azaria. It's such a good cast. It's a fantastic film. And I was so struck when I was watching it, just seeing all the names rolling in the credits. Mike Nichols directed it, which I didn't realize. It was, I can't remember the name of the DOP, Emmanuel something, but one of the best cinematographers in the world was the cinematographer on The Birdcage. And there's just so much to unpack and discuss. So before we bring in our guests for this evening, let's just check to see what friends we have in the chat joining us. Aubrey, super stoked to have you. What a way to start Pride Month indeed. First off, happy Pride to anyone and everyone and every single human who is watching, and all those people who are not watching. It's just the perfect coincidence, because this movie was programmed weeks ago and I just wanted it to fall in this order. I didn't realize that I was programming it for June 1st, the start of Pride Month. It's perfect. It's hold on. Hold on. Yeah. I dropped a Funko. Rainbow Unicorn approves. There we go. Who else do we have? Oh, Eliza, my cat is here. Hello. I like birds. I've never seen one in a cage. Meowmy said this isn't about real birds. Goodbye. Okay, goodbye, Eliza. Thank you for joining us. Yes, I know you love birds. Good girl. My mom's here, Martha. Everyone, Martha's birthday is in a few days on Sunday, June 5th. So if we could throw some Martha birthday love into the chat, that would be fantastic. Aubrey says, this is one of my favorite movies. I watched it every day after school in grade 9. I love that. Oh, Aubrey, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the film. Anna's here. Hello, Anna. Thank you for joining us. Bobby's here. Hello, Bobby. Now, in addition to our friends in the chat, of course, we have some wonderful friends who are going to be joining us on the show here today. We're going to bring in one of our very first guests. You know her. You love her. She's here pretty much every single week, and she programmed half of the Robin Williams movie marathon. It's Jeanette.
Hey,
Hi, Jeanette.
I'll take credit. I love it.
Yeah.
You know what? If I'm going to take credit for anything, something involving Robin Williams, it just couldn't be better.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm so glad you suggested these last 2 movies, because they're not movies I would have instinctively thought to put in the Robin Williams movie marathon. I really wanted to do Good Will Hunting, but no one else wanted to watch it.
Yeah, and from what I hear, and maybe we should just maybe it should be Robin Williams, half a year. Because that's one I never sat down and watched all the way through. I hear he's not in it the whole way, that much.
He's definitely a supporting actor in that, because it is very much about Matt and Ben, but he's amazing. I mean, it's an Oscar-winning movie. Honestly, I would watch that over Dead Poets Society if I had the choice. Even though I love Dead Poets Society. But yeah, and we got that great line, how do you like them apples? It's fantastic. But that's only one quotable line from that whole movie. This movie, so many quotable lines. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about who you are. Tell us about what you do. Who is Jeanette? Tell us it all.
So I'm Jeanette. You can find me at TinkerJ787 on Instagram. You can also find me on YouTube other than here on Teacup for One. You can find me on the Disnerdy Network on We Like Theme Parks, and soon at some point this month, Dole Whip Darlings with the Churro Fund and Sammy D.
Delightful. So excited for that. So excited to have you. And the birthday wishes are rolling in for Martha. That's yours. She says, thank you for the birthday wishes. Bob Hunt, happy birthday, Martha. Hope Matt's being. I'm always nice to her. He seemed a little snarky in the Turning Red video. Well, first off, Bob, thank you for watching my video and paying attention all the way through. I got Martha's approval to post that. She recognized. I thought she recognized the humor. Oh, who knows? But no, my favorite thing in that video is just hearing her off camera say, "Matthew, that's not nice." I think I say something like, "My mom's here off screen because it wouldn't be a Turning Red video if my mother wasn't hovering over my every move." And then you just hear his voice. She's like, "Matthew, that's not nice." It was hilarious. No, we adore Martha. She is fantastic. She is lovable. We love her. Happy early birthday. I think it's like what? 42. I think that's what it is. 40. Yeah, there we go. Michael James is here. Hey, friend. Unrelated. Hook is the best Peter Pan movie. Oh, I don't have the energy to get into this with you right now, Michael. Just
go back and watch the Hook video.
Yeah, why? and it's not. I don't like that movie. We discussed that though. All right, let's bring in our next guest for this evening. Oh, I love this. Like, they don't know who it's going to be. We have two more. They're just there. Like, out of 10. Okay, one of them's waving. I have to. It's Kristen, everyone. Hi, Kristen.
Hi. Happy birthday, Martha.
Oh, she says thank you, I'm sure. Yes, thank you so much for coming back and joining us. I'm so thrilled to have you.
Oh, I'm so excited.
It's always a joy having Kristen Zaza on the channel. So yeah, Kristen, same thing. Tell those watching who might not know you, who you are, what you do.
Who am I and what do I do? That's such a philosophical question.
It is, I
know. I'm the creator, writer, host, narrator of a audio drama podcast called On a Dark Cold Night, where I tell creepy and relaxing bedtime ghost stories. And I just released an episode, so it's a great time to jump in.
Really? Have you hit 200 yet? Because I know that was coming up.
I'm at 196 as of today. So counting down, and then I'll take a little bit of a tiny vacation and then back at it.
Oh, brilliant. Well, congratulations on episode 196.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And I can't wait to hear what you have to say about the Birdcage. Brilliant.
I love this movie so much. It's, yeah. I'm very excited.
The consensus, everybody loves this movie.
I can't imagine someone not.
For tonight. Well,
You'd
actually,
be a very unhappy person.
I know. No, actually, I very much enjoy this movie. I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I have like one or two things where I'm like, I'm not sure, but we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. And our final guest, well, we might have another one. We might have a special guest later on, but final guest for right now, for this evening, making their debut on the channel. So thrilled to have Rosie, the mastermind behind the We Like Theme Parks Puppets account.
Hey!
Here.
Yeah, my name is Rosie. I'm with We Like Theme Parks Puppets. You can find me on the Disney Network. I'm also supporting a bunch of shows with puppetry that are debuting on that network, like the Dole Whip Darlings. I have some things coming up in the works. I've also done some stuff with Matthew Yipchuk.
It's my puppet!
Yeah, I'm just having fun with puppets, man. Kind of like immersing myself in the Disney culture. I'm just having a good time. I even have Miss Tinker J.
Yay! I think Matt and I's puppets are from the same planet.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, if you follow along, we even have the new Disney Dado.
Yes, we do.
What a
just having a good time, man.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not having a good time, what are you doing? You know?
Right. Oh, you know who's having a good time? Bob Hunt. I agree. Woo hoo.
Bob Hunt, what's up, man?
There it is. All right, what's this? Bob Hunt. I think he had sunstroke that day. This is about me being snarky to my mom during our Turning Red adventure. It was, yeah. When you watch that video, it's just like a nice 25-minute adventure to you. To me, it was probably 12 combined hours of sunstroke and dehydration and eating food that almost made me throw up. It was a good time to be had by all. I know I need a good bow bun. That's
yeah. I'm so sad.
I'm so sad too. Like that part, like the whole reason I wanted to do that video was to have a bow bun because they looked so good in the Pixar verse.
And I've literally never had a bad bow bun, so I feel like you just really.
Well, like, have you had a bow bun that you like? Have you left out a bow bun at room temperature for like 8 hours and just let it get all slimy and congealed? Try that, then get back to me. That's what I had. Anyway, before we get going, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsors, the Teacup for One T-shirt T-Shop. Look, I'm wearing one.
Nice.
And so's Jeanette.
Nice.
Yeah, I wore this one in honor of one of the stars of the film tonight. Not Robin Williams, but of course, Nathan Lane. My shirt says Matata. It means worry. Jeanette.
I wore mine in support of drag. Spill the tea.
and I didn't even put two and two together. This whole thing, the channel just came out of tea cups, and then long after I started the channel, I started to watch Drag Race, and it just all the dots connected. I was like, this is why all of my friends say spill the tea. Now I get it. I love it. But like this movie, I think I can appreciate this movie so much more now that I've like binge watched every season of Drag Race, and I like understand the drag culture a little bit more, and even just the politics that this movie touches on. Because the only other time I had seen this film was about 10 to 15-ish years ago. I was like early 20s. I had it on VHS just when VHS tapes were like slowly starting to phase out, and like you could get a bunch of them really cheap. So I had a bunch of them. I just had it. I was like, I'll watch it because I love this cast, and I did. And yeah, like at the time, I thought this is a decent movie. I laughed a little bit. I think it's a movie that's better enjoyed with people. So both times I've seen it, I've just watched it by myself and had a couple light chuckles to myself. But I'm like, if I had group energy right now, I'd be so into this film. Yeah. But like, I know that pretty well. I think everyone on screen has a richer history with the movie than I do, as opposed to I just watched it because it was there and I liked it. So as I usually like to do, let's just open with what you remember about the first time you saw the movie. If you can remember, or if not, just what the movie meant to you the first time you saw it. Then we're going to circle back and ask, how does it hold up now? Let's start with Jeanette.
So my first experience with this movie, I did go to see it in theaters with my parents. And so it was like my mom and dad were rolling in the aisles, you know, like they've loved Robin Williams too. They both love Nathan Lane. So, you know, that got them through the door. I think that, you know, at that age, I think this movie has like aged with me, where like every time I watch it, I feel something different, or I notice a different nuance of emotion in it. I see another character side of the story. So like when I was young, it was just funny. And like when you're little, if you're not around people in the drag community or around queer people, it may be your first introduction to that. And for me, that was true. Like I lived in a city where there were plenty of queer people, but I had never been like amongst people. You know, I lived in a pretty like average family. It wasn't, you know, something that you talked about. And so like this was my first introduction to that whole idea of like, oh yeah, well, they have lives too, and they're living their lives. And like, you know, that was my first like glimpse into that. And there's just enough humor for you to like laugh the whole time. But at the same time, there's a pretty real like story and message here. So like, it's always made me laugh. It's always made me so very happy. But it ages with me. And I've just really found more stories in it than I ever thought that there were there.
Well said.
Yeah, I think that's so fantastic that you were exposed to it at such a young age.
Yeah.
You know, what were you, 9, 10? How old were you?
Would have been. Time? I think we're the same age. 96, so you would have been like
96?
9.
Yeah, so I would have been 9. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I really love that. Chris, I would love to hear your opinion of that movie and your exposure of it.
Yeah, well, I was I'm trying to remember the very first time I watched it, and I can't remember the first time. I think I watched it with my mom, and I was probably maybe like 11 or 12, around there, maybe a little bit older. And like my family it's sort of similar to like I was born and raised in Toronto, and my family was pretty, I don't know, maybe a little less than conservative. Like, I don't know how to put it. Yeah. Like
it was
my sister.
It was the 90s.
Yeah. Well, this would have been the early 2000s in Toronto. So,
Oh, right.
and you know, my dad's a musician, my family's pretty artsy. So, and my my sister had a very good friend who was gay who lived at our house for a long time. He still is gay, incidentally. Incidentally, he's still gay.
I thought you were going to say he
Funny how
still
that
lived at
works.
your house. And I was like, that's nice.
What's that?
I thought you were going to say he still lived in the house. I was going to be
Well,
like,
we don't
that's
know.
nice.
We don't own the house anymore. I don't
Oh,
think
okay.
he's there. No, anyway. So it wasn't like, anything. How do I put it? Like that I wasn't exposed to. I certainly knew that gay people were among us. That sounds really funny to say, but like it was more the drag that I think was a little bit more
Yeah.
taboo at the time.
Yeah.
And my mom loved this movie so much. And wherever there might have been a little tension in my household, let's say, with it, because it was Robin Williams and Nathan Lane, like you said, it got like my dad in the door,
Yeah.
you know,
It's like the
or
bridge.
my brother
Yeah.
in the door. Yeah, exactly. So while I think now I can look back on it and see maybe where there are some things that we wouldn't do the same way, I think it was a pretty wonderful thing, you know, to have been a household staple, you know, for family movie watching back then.
Yeah.
And I remember we went to Florida often, and I would sit in the back and watch DVDs, and I watched this one on a loop for the whole Florida trip for like a 2-day car ride. I would watch this on a loop. And something I was thinking about as I was rewatching a bit of it today. Sorry, I think that might be my microphone. Is it okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. I was watching a little bit of it today and thinking like part of it now is it has this extreme nostalgia for like what I remember of Florida when I was a little kid.
Yes, that's another thing. What Florida looked like in like the early to mid 90s. Oh my God. I love it.
The pinks, the neon greens, the turquoises, the colors, the
Yeah.
bikinis in the streets, like the
Those are
feminism.
live. Yeah.
I was like, this doesn't feel like Florida now. Like I remember when it felt like this magical tropical paradise, you know, where you could just be yourself. And now it doesn't feel the same way, but I haven't been there for a while. Yeah, I really love it. It's a great movie. I can't remember the first time. I just remember a lot of joy around it, like you said, with the whole family, which was a pretty rare thing, I think.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Very
See, everyone
cool.
has such rich histories with this movie. Then there's me. I just watch it on VHS. Like Aubrey here says, first time I watched this, I was 15. I wasn't out yet, but knew I wasn't quite straight. This helped me realize that was A-okay. And I think that's something I'm even realizing now in this first few minutes of this conversation is just how, like Rosie said, it was a bridge movie. Ultimately, just because of the mainstream quality with Nathan Lane and Robin Williams, again, like the entire cast. I think the conservative parents are cast so perfectly in terms of who they bring in for audience as well, because I think they're also a bit of a bridge. Like, I'm assuming there are more conservative people in the 90s who would have like gone to see a movie just because it had Gene Hackman, or fans of Diane Wiest, who was like at her prime when this movie came out. So so much to discuss. But Rosie, same question.
Yeah, I think my experience is a little different because I that's my heyday. You know, this is like I was in my 20s during this period of time in '96. I was kind of out there rocking and rolling, and to be able to see that culture and like that stamp, like you were saying before, like that time stamp of what it used to be. It's just really nostalgic in that sense, you know, in the very beginning. But the growth that I think that we were having as a nation at that time in '96 was crazy. I mean, this is the beginning of cultural, I guess, like gay culture exposure in America, and it being accepted, you know, in the '90s. But we had Ellen, we had this movie, we had Tu Wong Fu, we had all of these really like pro queer artistic forms that were being put out there, and it just wasn't the time. We were just coming off of grunge, you know what I mean? So it was a complete different exposure. But to see that on screen for me at the time, it was kind of like a one-off, honestly. You know, like we got the movie and it just went back to what America was. But like you were saying, when I go back and watch it, as I grew, the movie grew with me. Like as the comedy kind of took a back seat and the politics became a little bit more in the forefront, because I started to relate to some of the things that were happening in this movie. Like, oh, I'm about to get married. I've got to meet the in-laws. Like a lot of this stuff started to happen. So like it was really interesting to see the dynamic of, as a young adult, and then like, oh, okay, this was actually real life, not just a comedy. And moving forward and honestly being surprised that it's such a family staple. I didn't realize that so many people really appreciated it. And I think that's coming from a gauge of people, of those in my generation, and not a gauge of those younger than me that weren't tainted at the time, that weren't looking at it through a different lens. It was just kind of like a pure exposure, and it was just it's just a different experience, I think, overall. But it's amazing for me. Not to get too political about this, like coming off of the 80s into the 90s, it was the AIDS epidemic. Like there was a whole generation that was lost at that time, and those were my mentors. So there's a lot of stuff that was going on at that time. So I was not thinking in a positive sense, I guess, in that mind. So having this conversation and hearing that the generation below latched onto that movie and loved it the way that they did, it's like, a little warm and fuzzy that kind of happened inside, because there's something happened.
I'm glad you brought that up, Rosie, because I felt like, again, looking at it now and just recognizing like, oh, this is a different time period. I did start to think, I was like, this was something that could have been one of the first things for many people of my parents' age to break the stigma of coming out of that 80s era.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stigma. And I think that this movie would have been one of the first steps into like changing the narrative.
Yeah, it totally was. It totally was. And it was like that whole what is it? Tu Wong Fu, Ellen's first sitcom, the first kiss on air. Friends had a
that was the same year. Yeah, 96.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
Like 3 years, like in a row, pop, pop, pop. And then all of a sudden the Spice Girls came out and everyone was loving everybody. So it was like there was like period of time that it was just really beautiful, and there was like a sense of growth and unity that was occurring, and it was just really nice from an adult collegiate standpoint to be like involved with it. But then to come back years later and know that the youth behind me who were watching it, over the shoulder, got something out of it too. I mean, that's freaking cool. That's amazing. You just don't get to like experience that a lot of times because we're just so on the defense in this arena, So it's really cool. That's cool.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Well, oh my gosh. There's so much to say. I love it. Like oh my God, you brought a fan. Fantastic. I definitely want to do a deep dive into how we think the movie holds up, but that's like slightly bigger question. So the first thing I want to ask to lead into that is one specific thing, if anything, that stood out to you in this rewatch or a recent rewatch, like a newer discovery that you made, which I think it's so telling. Like everyone, for the most part, has said that like it's a movie that grows with you, that you can get more out of as you get older. And like for me, what stood out in this rewatch, it was really, I was surprised, like pleasantly surprised at the poignancy of it, what's his name? What's Nathan Lane's character's name? Albert. Yeah. The poignancy of his character's journey, not so much within like the two dads, the gay parenting context, but just in terms of him being a step parent and being accepted as a step parent. Like that was just a whole subplot that went over my head, I think, the first time I watched it. And then I just thought like it's so beautiful when it gets to the point where the son says, when Val says, "This is my mother," like just to spend the entire movie being in rejection of that, almost like the coda effect, I'll call it, where you have the character who's just ashamed of their family in one way or another. Then at the end, they have that moment where they start signing while singing a song on stage. And it's like they're accepting their family and who they are. And I'm just like, oh, I'm crying. It's so beautiful. So just that whole journey for Albert, for me as the step parent, like I thought that was so beautiful. And also I didn't realize how political the movie was in so many ways, shapes and forms. So
what you were just talking about, that alone was even a delicate dance, because the son, he admittedly said he was the only one in his fraternity that didn't come from a broken home.
Yeah.
So he sees his home and his home life as positive. He sees that he was nurtured and loved, but it was the outside world that was not allowing him to present his family and his love to whoever needed it to be presented to. But then making the decision as a family to say, okay, I understand the world. We're going to do this for you. It sucks and listen to what you're asking me, but we're still going to do it. And they did it. That's what just like, that's freaking love. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I get all
it's
like
so beautiful.
teary-eyed over it.
No. And I think it didn't click for me really that we're getting a similar story on the other side of like Clarissa Flockhart's family, where they're also trying to keep up their appearance and they also have a lot to hide, I guess. I think they're more acutely aware and like more ashamed of themselves than the family is. I think that's more parental imposed as opposed to the kid being like, no, you have to change. So I think when I watched it the first time, I just thought of them as being very cookie cutter. Like they're the conservatives. They are what they are. But like just seeing that they also had kind of a counterbalance, similar story going on. Like I think there's so much, it's such a perfect setup. Like the plot for this film is brilliant and the nuance that comes out of it is fantastic. And there's so much to love. So yes. Jeanette, what did you discover in this rewatch?
So on the note of, we're talking about how this puts gay rights, the progress of gay acceptance in American culture. There was one moment that when I was a kid, I think completely went over my head. And I think where you're from and like how your family behaves in general puts a lens on how you see this movie the first time, the second time, on and on and on. There's a moment when he's on the phone, when Gene Hackman's character's on the phone and he goes, oh, where was he? And he goes, she black, a prostitute? And then like, he's like, he was found in the bed of a black prostitute. And I'm like, the fact that sex worker rights is something that we talk about in this country in general too, but also just the fact that they had to throw in that she was black, like that made a difference. I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, this is raising a whole other issue here. Yeah. And I don't think I ever really, because it's not a major turning point. They show one little news clip with the girl and then they move on and they just refer to it as a scandal. But that moment, you're like, we're going to touch on some other subjects here. Holy smokes. Yeah. And then another little thing that like,
underage.
The thing.
Really the biggest problem with the whole thing.
Yeah. And the other thing, whenever Callista Flockhart's character tells them like, oh, we're going to get married and we've been sleeping together for blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh my God, don't tell me that. Like, I thought that was another topic. Like she's 19. I mean, I don't know.
Has he been tested? Yes, and so have I. That's my favorite. And so have I. And he goes, "Oh God!" Like, the fact that she's been tested.
And it touches on that topic of like sex education. And
that was all brand new. That was all brand new. I mean, if it weren't for TLC, like running around with a condom on their eye, we wouldn't be where we are right now. Really, this is the 90s period where we were just getting into the dialogues that it was okay. Political correctness was on it. It was kind of there. Yeah. We just came out of Rodney King. Like there was just a lot of turmoil going on that we were getting out of,
So I think that's what I noticed this time around that I had never noticed was the amount of things that we touch on in this movie, whether they're the prime spotlight or not.
Yeah. No, I think this movie is such a brilliant satire in so many ways.
The script is incredible.
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah. And there are so many things that I think overall it has aged pretty well, not to get ahead of myself and what I want to discuss, but I think it has aged really well because so much of it is aware satirical humor calling attention to I want to believe that's calling attention to things
but that's still present. That still relates to to today's storylines, like things that people still have to go through in order to get by in their family. They're still doing these things. So
it just fascinates me that this Like this story came around in like the 70s, and that's
Mm-hmm.
But I
Have
want to
you all
discuss that
seen La Cage aux
separately.
Folles?
But yeah,
Has everyone
I've
seen?
not. I've heard
I
some of the
haven't watched the
music.
French one. I've never watched the French one. No.
I saw it one time, not in its entirety, a long time ago, but I was struck by how similar they were. Like,
Well, yeah,
I think
well,
they're
Yeah, the
pretty
It all
tone.
started it started
Yeah.
as a play
Yeah.
first, a French play in the 70s.
And of course, the musical.
Then it turned into the
We're gonna get
musical.
into.
And,
Oh wait,
yeah.
no, it was the play first. Then there was a French film adaptation of the play, also called La Cage aux Folles. Then there was the musical based on the
Musical
play.
about
Then
Wow.
there was this movie, which just basically took the plot of the play. So this story has been around and present since the 70s. Just
yeah.
I just find that fascinating. Just to imagine politically and just socially how the culture has changed since the 1970s, but like the story still is relevant.
Mhm.
But just
Yeah.
imagining what it would have been like for a 1970s audience
Oh
in
yeah.
France seeing
yeah.
this. I'm assuming it's so far ahead of its time. Even watching this movie now in a lot of ways, I'm thinking this feels like a movie that for the most part could have been made today, minus a few things, which I'll.
But do you think it would have hit the same? Do you think it would have had that same political kind of touch to it, or would it have just been camp and like humor? You know,
No,
it
like-
just
If
I
it were
think the
today, you mean?
yeah, like if you were looking at this in the 70s, like that the presentation of this
Oh, yeah.
content in the 70s,
Oh,
were they looking at it as deeply as we are today, or are they just seeing the funny ha gay jokes?
I think
You
it
know-
was.
you know?
I feel like it was politically aware enough because it's always built itself as a farce,
Mhm.
and I think the setup is just so in my mind there to call out. I don't want to say conservative values, but like ultra conservative values, and to draw attention to love in
Mhm.
general, just to say
Yeah.
how is it? Well, I'm saying this not having seen or read the original La Cage aux Folles, but I just feel like the way that it is set up, I think that is inherently like what it is. I don't think it was ever just intended to be a satire to like laugh at men dressed as women,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
do think that the undercurrent of what the plot is, like it is about love and acceptance within a family dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does focus more on the love component and not so much of the man in a dress
Mhm.
component. Yeah. I agree with that.
Yeah. But Kristen, what stood out to you on this
Well-
rewatch, or if you've seen it recently?
Well, I just was playing it before I got on. I didn't get to finish it, but I do know this movie like the back of my hand. So we're good. But I'm glad that that we were just having the discussion we were just having, because for me, I was really looking at it through the lens of love and connection, especially even in the presence of such polarizing politics.
Mhm.
I think that, and authenticity as well, because there's this interesting thing, like we're talking about the parents hiding on all sides. Like you've got the conservative parents hiding behind, they don't want them to know we're associated with this, this man. And then you have Albert and Armand, of course, who are, you have Albert trying to hide who he is or disguise it in various ways first. And when he tries to play straight, that was such a heartbreaking moment, I think, when he says, like, this is even more obvious, and Robin Williams, even when he's in the suit, we think he's, doing the epitome of a straight man. And Gene Hackman and Diane Wiest are both saying, like, there's something we don't like about, like, something's up with him, but we love the mother because
Right.
because Albert is being authentic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Gene Hackman, I think it's interesting how well they get along, and that Gene Hackman loves her, even though she is saying things that are challenging what he's saying. And in fact, I was also noticing, like, openly mocking him, like with her politics. She's openly mocking him. She's challenging his ideas.
Kill
And
the mother
he-
too, down with the ship.
Oh my goodness, that's so
Another
funny
thing
because
that they talk about in
Oh,
this
yeah.
movie.
and it's so funny because he's like, well, why stop there? Let's just
Yeah.
let's do it your way then and have this. And Gene Hackman's just like, amazed at everything she says.
No.
And
Like I love how he comes to life as soon as he meets her, just from being so
she's a real
raw.
person who wants to talk
Yeah.
about things. And that's at the heart of it, I think, is no matter, despite these very, very opposite opinions, they want to talk about it. Whereas Robin Williams is obviously uncomfortable and obviously just trying to get out of every situation, do everything but talk about it, you know? So that was sort of an interesting thing. And then so I was having this thought and writing down some notes about it. And then the My Fair Lady sequence starts, where suddenly after that extremely tense scene, and unexplained by the script, but I kind of love this, they all just start singing and having a wonderful time, and they're very free with each other, including Agador. And then that this connection through artistic expression really struck me, that all of the awkwardness kind of goes away with the fact that we all agree that we like to sing and
the thing I
listen to
like
music
about
and
that
dance,
scene is that My Fair Lady is one of those things that is intrinsically kind of this cornerstone icon in the gay community, but is also considered Americana by people who are more like mainstream and conservative. And I think there's a lot of crossover like that. And they picked one that worked. Like, it is this musical, it is this thing that they all adore, and it brings them together like that.
And it's about hiding yourself.
Oh yeah,
it's about disguising yourself.
Not even disguising. It's about one person changing another person into what they think they should be.
But also, the idea of repressing qualities that you deem society to not view as acceptable or valuable. You know, and I don't know. It was there are layers to that are really interesting. But the whole movie is also like such a love letter to music theater.
That's very true.
Twilight.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, that was one of those moments where I was like, my education wasn't worthless because at least I understand all of these references right now. Twilight,
Fosse.
It's like when I listen to La Vie Boheme. Now I know who all the people are. I'm like, took me a long time to find a stable job, but at least I know who these people are. Thank you, 2 degrees. Rosie, what are your thoughts? Anything that stood out to you just on this specific rewatch for this talk?
I love what Kristen just said, and just touching back on that. One thing that I didn't realize it bothered me as much as it did until I just saw it again was the ending, because they had such a disdain for the family dynamic in the unit and like the shame of all of that until they needed it in order to escape, so they weren't seen by the paparazzi. And that's so like, sorry, it's so common. I don't want to use the word typical, but typical for that to be as far as like allyship or support. You know, it comes in like roller coasters and waves, depending on what is the need from that particular person. At least that's my experience, and that's what I see through my lens. And to see that on screens, like, oh, okay, that does occur, and it happened here, but it happened so quickly and so passively. Except for one thing that I don't know why they filmed it this way, but it made me feel kind of good that when the father was leaving in full drag to avoid the paparazzi, he was in this silver wig and kind of doing his little cha-cha, that kind of thing. He passed one of the news cameramen who recognized him, but kind of just let him go. You just kind of like, almost like a, okay, do your own thing, man, and just turned his back and just kept doing whatever he was doing and let him escape. I thought that was just an amazing nod to just let somebody live their life, man. Like, you're not, who cares what the situation is, why you're dressed in drag right now, why we're all here with these news crews trying to like get you.
Yeah.
But I see you, and I'm just going to let you do what you're going to do. You know,
that scene, I did notice another thing I noticed on this rewatch. In that scene, the Gene Hackman's character, he seems uncomfortable at first, but then he like literally is like, why do you have to put me in white? And like, and you can tell he's enjoying it actually. Like, he's actually having a good time. The mom actually seems uncomfortable. He's like starting to get into it, and he's like worried about his outfit and everything. And I really hadn't, I mean, again, it's nuance, right? Like, you're a kid, you're just like, oh, it's funny they put him in a dress. That's hilarious. And then I'm watching it now, and like, drag is, like I don't do drag anymore. I used to like do like crazy goth costuming that I would consider drag, but like I watch a lot of drag and I'm a huge supporter of drag. Like I love it so much. And like to see you do realize that there are people who like want to do that and let society hold them back. And that it can just be so freeing. And he seems comfortable in it, you know, like he seems like he's enjoying it. Like every second he's in it. So
yeah. And I recently realized that the mom went the opposite direction. I never really put that
she seemed
together.
Uncomfortable,
yeah, really rigid and very just like get me out of here. And I thought she was going to be the supportive one. I thought she was going to be sort of like the let's just go and get it done. But you know, appearances, you know.
Yeah, and in that moment, I just love that little beat where him and why do I keep forgetting Nathan Lane's character? Albert. When him and Albert just meet in the club, and then Albert is like in the suit, and then he's in drag, and still you just see like they still have that connection, and they still have like that, like almost I don't know, friendship, respect, whatever it is, and they've switched, but that bond is still there. I don't know, like that's another thing that I think stood out to me was just how much I love that dynamic between the two of them.
Yeah.
And although I do agree the ending to me felt rushed. Like I wanted more of that. I wanted to see be with them longer while each of them were in drag to see what those interactions were, to see how that shifted the dynamics of the relationships or if it didn't at all. But it felt very rushed. Just like you tied up this movie very quickly, very cleanly in a neat little bow. Just like the answer is drag. Done.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what the goal was. You know, was we got what we wanted out of the situation. It's resolved for us, but like it still lingers with the community. But what I really loved more than anything was the energy that the couple of Albert and Armand gave to their community in that little sequence of him going to shop for his baked goods and like going through the neighborhood shops and just having that energy with the people that you live around. You don't get that, you know, a lot, you know, and to be able to see that level of comfort for someone who presents so feminine in an environment that is very masculine. You know, Miami is a very machismo environment. So to have that level of confidence in yourself and know yourself, to have a community that supports you like that, that's freaking amazing. That's really cool to see. And talk about representation. That's the kind of stuff that I talk about in representation. It's the day-to-day living of being able to do something like that.
Yeah.
You know, like I love having a flower guy in my corner that I go to that knows my name. You know, not everybody has that opportunity, you know, when you're living your life openly. You know, so it's really cool to see.
Said. So we should probably talk about Robin Williams because this is a Robin Williams movie marathon.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's so many things to discuss. But let's start with Robin. How do we feel about Robin in this movie? Aside from the fact that I think we all unanimously love Robin in all things, including this film. But like I like to ask with these specific shows, what do we think he offered to this role specifically? Because if I were to have this script thrown in front of me in the 90s, I don't know if he's the first person I would have thought. Actually, I don't know who I would have thought to cast in this role. But Robin Williams to me isn't like the obvious choice, but he was so perfect.
I think he has the heart.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't there something where at first it was cast where he would have been Albert and Nathan Lane was going to
remember there
be
was something like
Armand.
that.
I think that was the case. And then I think they talked to them about it or they discussed it. And I mean, it's perfect the way it is, but that's an interesting sort of.
But yeah, I think Albert feels like more the Robin Williams role, like the more exuberant one.
Well, he's rarely the straight man, and I mean that in the comedic context. But he's usually the most
animated.
And Albert is such a character. But yeah.
I remember that being sort of a draw for the release of that movie, as seeing Robin Williams in this role that was still kind of like funny and slapsticky and potential humor, but he wasn't playing the role. He wasn't the one with the zingers. He was the straight man, and that was a draw to at that time.
Yeah.
I think much like we've said almost every other Robin Williams week, he does things that were some other actor to do it, I don't know that it would have landed, that it would have made me laugh, whatever. And I think one of the major things is he's a straight man playing a gay role, which at the time was very commonplace. Now you think that whole thing would have aged poorly. I still don't care that he's a straight guy playing a gay role because he does it justice and he doesn't overdo it. And he makes choices that make sense. And like he brings the heart. We say it every week about him. He brings the heart, he brings the emotion, he brings the sincerity. He always respects the characters that he's playing. No matter who he's playing, he respects the character. He doesn't overdo it. He doesn't act like he's greater than. I think
the integrity is always present. I feel like it's always there. So I would trust him to do honestly anything in that period of time in the 90s, especially. Like that was his heyday. And and to looking back at it now, what he was producing and what he was delivering and what he was going through in his own emotional turmoil, and like he was still able to deliver all of these beautiful works of art, you know, leading up to, you know, what led up in the ending of his life. But he was giving himself every single time that he was on screen, like whatever that role was. And again, like my perception of it is a little bit different because I was already in my adult years, but going back into seeing younger generations at that time, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, still being impacted in the way that you were, to be able to bring that heart into today. I mean, it's a direct translation. I mean, he did what he set out to do. And I think that's such like bravo, you know, like that's art, you know, that's art.
That is art. Cool. Yeah. And I think that can be said for everyone in this movie. And that's something that really stood out to me when I was watching, because again, I can't get over how much I love this cast as an ensemble. I think it's like a perfectly cast ensemble film because so many of those roles are so tricky, I feel, to fall into not being respectful.
But especially the son. You could easily hate that guy. You could easily just like, but he kept a really good balance. I feel like he delivered the understanding of what position he was in. He understood what he was asking. It's a big ask, but he's still going to do it. And just sure, maybe I wouldn't have done it, and I wouldn't have gone the way that he did, but it occurred, and everybody in the family was supportive enough to jump on board and just get it done. I mean, that's your community. You know what I mean? That's your village, and to have that presented in 1996, that you have a village. And also that you can tout that you're the only one that doesn't have a broken village at college. You know, that's a huge feat. I think that's beautiful.
Oh, it's fantastic. I just love, he just to me feels like the perfect flawed 20-year-old where you could tell his heart is in the right place, but like he's very much of the age that he is, even though I don't believe him physically as a 20-year-old because he looked like at least mid to late 20s. And I think he actually was, but still, like he played it. Like I think him and Clarissa Lockhart. How do I say it?
Callista.
I can't say it. Callista. Helena. I'm going to call her Helena.
Ally McBeal. Right?
Ally McBeal. I'll go with that. Him and Ally. I think those are the two roles that are so easy to dismiss because they're like debatably the least interesting out of everyone. But I love them. I love what they're doing. All of it.
What I think is cool about Armand and Val's relationship is actually it's really Armand and everyone, because I think when I first saw it when I was younger, I thought he was just angry and mean the whole time, and watching it as an adult, I'm like, it's so clear that he loves everyone so deeply. And he can joke with Val about like, get out of my house, I never want to see you again, or whatever. He can easily joke with him about that because they're so confident in their unconditional love. Or I feel like, you know, maybe there's an element of that with Albert as well, that like they go through these extremes, and also Armand is being like pulled into different directions by all the members of his family, all the people he loves, even Christine Baranski. He's got a lot of love for everybody, and he's being pulled in so many different directions, and he's trying to keep it together. And I think that's what I was perceiving as like he's just angry the whole time, but instead it's just that he just really I don't know. It wouldn't work if you couldn't tell that he loves everybody so fully that he, he's just trying to make everybody happy.
To
and it's
touch
so
on
hard.
that, they're bringing up his relationship with Val. It was I've watched this movie since I've been a mother. I'm sure I've watched it a number of times, but for some reason I just viewed it through the lens of being a parent, really, for the first time watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that feeling of I'm going to do something that I do not want to do, something that may even make your mother or your father, like my better half, upset in the process. I'm going to do it because I'm doing it for you, my child.
Mm-hmm.
I love you. And I'm going to do this, even if it means I'm going to upset my homeostasis, you know? And that idea also, in the same note, like Kristen just said, of I need to take care of my spouse, the one that I love, the one that I've built this life with, because we built this life together. And that scene where Val finds out that he didn't tell Albert to go away, and he's like, what did you didn't tell? And he goes, no, what am I going to do? I'm going to break his heart. No, of course I didn't. He's like, no, of course I couldn't break that was something a scene I don't think I had connected with ever the way I did this time. Since being both a wife and a mother. And I've seen this movie plenty since then. It's just for some reason that like really tugged at those specific heartstrings this time.
And on that note, just on the very similar side of it, and how much you give on that parental side of you're giving for the right reasons, you're giving and you're giving and you're giving and you're giving to a point of exhaustion to some points. And there was a point in the movie where Starina, Albert, was in full man drag. He was like in a suit and was trying to do the role. And before he left, after the conversation, he turned around and just said, "You hate me."
Oh my gosh!
Like,
I was like crying.
They took it as like, "Oh, you're being dramatic," but no, he tried so hard and put 100% of himself.
Because I just wanted to help
and it wasn't enough.
It's also a very motherly thing to say.
Yeah,
it's a way that I think.
And to have that same response, I'm sure that you'd get of like, "Oh, you're being so dramatic." Oh, whatever. No, you truly hurt me, like right here.
Yeah.
You hurt me.
Well, and that's something about Albert too, noticing, watching it now, yes, he's over the top and he knows it and he's emotional and dramatic, but at the same time, his pain is very real and
like on the sleeves,
and it's a very beautiful thing to see that, like, and that the love between him and Armin too, like you see it breaking Armin's heart, you see it, them affecting each other, and
Robin is the pinnacle, the cornerstone of all of this love. I feel like he's having to give, he's having to be supportive.
Remember, he still owns a club that's full. So he's still giving
trying to
all
run a
that
business
love to everybody who's down there. All of those people who are waiting in the wings to go on and drag, he's got to tell them they're beautiful. He's got to tell them I love you.
And he's running rehearsals.
Even the start of the movie, like going up to the important people in the audience, like, who needs coffee? What can I do over here? What can you do here? He's constantly.
I have to say, in the chat, Aubrey has given one of my favorite quotes. I say that quite often, the how Egyptian. That's like one of my favorites.
Oh man, my aunt, who is no longer with us, but she was such a wonderful, funny, intelligent person. This was one of her favorite movies, and she quoted it all the time, to the point where now I remember things that she said, and I'm like, she was quoting I can't believe I didn't even realize. Like, there was one time where she said, like, they hate me, they all hate me, and I was like, at the time I remember being concerned. I was like, I don't hate you, and now I'm like, it was a Birdcage quote. It was always a Birdcage quote.
Yep.
It's like The Godfather, and You've Got Mail. There's like a quote for every occasion.
Oh, man.
Anytime somebody talks about like dancing or like going somewhere, I go, I could have danced all night. And like, it's not I'm not quoting that. I'm quoting the Birdcage. Like,
How many times I get not the fake, but the songs that were written for them, like the "What is this dream I see," or there's the other one. There are songs in the movie. Oh, the one that Christine Baranski and Robin Williams do in The Office. I get that stuck in my head frequently. And I don't think it's a real thing.
No, I do,
like,
and I
distinctly
sing
nervous.
I sing that in my head. Are distinctly nervous.
Yeah. And the little dances. I knew the whole thing.
My favorite is I cook for a living, right? So I very often am literally smearing things on bread. And when I break the bread, nobody ever knows what the hell I'm talking about. I go, I pierced the toast. That is my favorite quote in the whole movie. And I literally occasionally have thrown it over my shoulder and gone, so what?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I get that reference now.
That's
I
amazing.
understood that reference. Oh my gosh.
I'm going
I
to
love
turn the
that.
light on real quick.
Do it. Yeah, and I mean, I know we were sort of talking about Robin Williams, but I also just want to give another shout out to Nathan Lane, who I think I don't think I appreciated his work in this movie. Well, again, I only watched it once, but the first time I didn't appreciate his work in this movie as much as I did this time around. And I think it's easy to write him off as having, I don't want to say like the easier role, but it is like the bigger role, the more flamboyant role. But like, I was just so struck at how nuanced it was, because definitely the heart was there, but there were just so many little subtle moments.
The
just seeing,
authenticity,
like his eye twitch and just like feeling the heartbreak that he was feeling. And I truly think that like that is the role that almost anybody else could have made this movie not hold up now. And I don't like, my one issue with the movie that I feel hasn't aged well is I think this movie in like a very 90s way blurs a line where it feels like Albert is trans but also not, just in that they're constantly like referring to Albert as being the mother, or it feels like it's not making a choice. And I think that's kind of, and I could be completely misinterpreting, but it does feel to me like it was this same grouping in 90s mentality of, if you're a drag artist or if you partake in drag, then you also identify as female in your everyday life. And I do feel like Albert is written in that way.
There is that part though where he goes, but you're not a woman. And he like Robin Williams calls him out on it. And I think maybe it was just a bridge too far for them to traverse at the time. Like we were already taking big steps, and that would have been a step. Like it wouldn't have been maybe as successful a film at the time. I don't disagree with you. I think that especially because we make the point of Albert trying to act straight, but really act like a man, even just a more macho gay man, was also hard for him. But then the minute he was allowed to be an actual mother, he's like, then he's connecting with people and really being able to be, like we said, authentic. So I don't think
authenticity was being a mother, not a woman, but being a mother. That's the authenticity.
True. Yeah. So maybe that's it. Yeah.
Because in 96, from my recollection, that dialogue and the dialogues that we have today, they just weren't present. They just weren't, you didn't have the words. You didn't have the connections. You couldn't differentiate. It's either you were male or female, dress or pants, and that's it. And I think this film allowed to go past that and say, it's not about that. It's about the mothering, the nurturing, that's not even his son. That's not even his biological son that he's doing all of this for. This is Armand's son that he's doing all of this stuff for. And he's taking the punches, but today I think it would be I think maybe it would be a trans story. I think it would be more focused on that storyline. But I think it would also take away from it, because that's not what this is about.
Oh no, for sure. I think it's definitely the intention is that that Nathan's character is someone who identifies as a man, but just has like more naturally effeminate qualities, and like those are just he's being pressured to repress them. But I think part of the beauty of Nathan's performance is he just makes it work. Whereas I think it would have been very tricky with the same script for other performers to make it work in a way that still holds up now.
I think other people would have focused too much on it.
Yeah.
Whereas he just let it be part of who the character was and make that part of the love, like Rosie said about being a mother.
Yeah, the love. It was literally that. It was the love. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off earlier, Kristen.
Oh no. No, I agree with everything you said. I think too that it's he wouldn't have to perform any kind of binary this strong if it weren't for the people he's performing it for. That's the thing, right? Is he lives in a community, like you said, Rosie, where he's accepted for his qualities, regardless of whether one deems them to be masculine or feminine. It's not really it's just Albert, you know.
And even if it's just for that moment, because they could cut him up when he walks away, who knows? But at least they're being respectful enough in that moment
to allow him his personality and to explore that. And now the problem is that he's got to pick one. You know, he's got to perform the binary for these people, and it's them who that sort of thing matters to. Anyway, I think that's more what it's about, rather than, you know, he's very comfortable with who he is and how he expresses himself in terms of gender and self in general, and mother or parent, you know.
Totally, that box is completely checked, and all of this is for somebody else. It's for how they're feeling about it.
They wouldn't get it, so he's got to be funny? Either a man or like
to make you feel better. Wow.
I'm gonna bring Audrey's thoughts into the conversation, which is the reason they call Albert the mother, is that he's filled the role in Val's life. Not that he's a woman, but he's also not the father. He is the mother, and I do think that makes sense. Yeah. I guess that's a perspective I didn't think of. He was definitely the more maternal one who raised Val, I would think.
I love, that's another quote too. Albert is practically a breast.
Well, when did they say that? I missed that.
I forget exactly when they say it. And he goes,
to Christine Baranski as she's like popping a champagne bottle.
I'm not very maternal. And he goes, oh, Albert, he's practically a breast.
Well, and isn't that interesting too, though, because she is like a shark, you know, she's like a businesswoman, and she runs a company, and she's ambitious, and she didn't want to raise a child, and she's exhibiting all of these qualities that would, you know, to, again, the Gene Hackmans and the Diane Weiss of the world be deemed masculine in that world.
Well,
you know?
And Diane Weiss' character says, she goes, oh, and what does the mother do? And he goes, oh, stay at home mom. And she goes,
a housewife.
Oh, that's refreshing.
Isn't that refreshing?
I love her so much. Just because of this mini series she did, but I adore Diane Weiss. That's it. Keep going, Rosie.
Well, I was going to say, what really struck me is realizing how the conception actually came to be. You know, she gave the doorman $20 to go hide out in this guy's bed. They ended up doing the deed. You know, they got pregnant, and she so much does not want to be a mother that she's like, okay, well, that was $20 well spent. Here, you can have this child. You know, like that's.
Well, and they both got something out of it that kind of like didn't redefine who they were, but like it was his first and only time being with a woman, and it was her. She didn't want to be a mother, but she became a mother out of the situation. So neither one of them really were doing anything that they would normally or typically do, and it brought a life into the world and turned out to be a wonderful family for him. It's his life. It's Armand's life. Like, it was a wonderful thing. She ended up going on to be a success. They ended up doing the thing they wanted to do, but it was just so funny. It was born out of this moment of something that neither one of them really wanted to do.
Yeah, it just blew my mind that it was off of a $20 bribe to him.
Yeah, of course.
Well, and because, like, and now neither of them, because they feel free from that, those restrictions we were talking about that society's putting on them, because they're free of that, they can live that life that they want. They can have their ideal. They can both, you know, neither of them has to compromise their dreams or their situation.
Yeah. And clearly Armand and the family built it themselves. I mean, they built their own utopia. That club and that community, that doesn't just happen overnight. They made that happen, you know, and that's really beautiful.
Bob Hunt weighing in, as someone with ADHD, I get the masking stuff and how exhausting it is, not to make it about neurodiversity. And I think that is so much a through line with this whole film. I guess, like, to go back to about how it stood out to me that Diane and Jean were also like hiding their things. Like so much of the stress and anxiety in this film is people
Masking who
masking
they are.
themselves, and because of societal expectations. And something like I thought was just such a cool inversion of societal expectations was my moment of thinking, like Christine Baranski, she gave birth to the kid and then she has had zero involvement in his life. That's weird. But then I thought, but then again, I feel like at least in a narrative context and basically a social context as well, it's not as out of the ordinary for the roles to be flipped where like a guy gets a woman pregnant, then she raises the kid and he has no involvement. And I'm like, it's the exact same situation, just gender's reversed. And I thought that was so eye-opening. And
I get the idea that she was so much of a businesswoman that they probably just made this like a business surrogacy.
Oh, of course.
Like, here we go. This is just.
Well, is that why she got the money? Is that what the implication was when she says you gave me the money to help start this up? Was it because like was it a sort of?
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he said I got Val.
Yeah,
that's
Yeah, so they didn't even allow it to even be a mistake or a hiccup. They just turned it into something positive from the minute it occurred, and that was really cool. Yeah, and very forward in '96. Again, that's ahead of its time.
They really walked the line of. Because they obviously wanted to make money on this movie. They made a movie. They wanted it to be successful. This was such a fine line to walk, to be so commentary about society and still be so funny. Like, I think it was bold of everybody involved in the movie making process.
Yeah. And I think their focus and the way that they got away with that, at least in my recollection, in the media and the press, they really focused on theater communities. So I think that's where that transition bridged into like just middle America. Like, wait, if you could see it on stage, it's okay that they're in this movie doing this because it's just like a play. You know, that's how I remember it being presented. It wasn't so much of a focus of look at this topic. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
They almost tried to like. I feel like the whole commentary of it didn't even occur to me till I watched it later in life. It was
it changed.
It was a comedy movie. That's what it is. Yeah. If you get something out of it, fabulous. But they definitely did not focus on that.
Yeah, and I think they did a brilliant job doing that because even myself going into it looking for the politics, I still saw a lot of comedy, and I get more out of it now as an adult on this side of it. And the brilliance in that is just. That's the acting, that's the delivery, that's the connection to the character and doing it justice and not making it into a farce and a slapstick, but just telling the story. And that is what we got. And we're very fortunate.
But I think one of the things that I found surprisingly the funniest was, I guess the social satire element. Like it's probably not even the funniest part of the movie, but I just got such a surprising kick out of the part when they were explaining the last names. And it's like, well, we have to be called this in this country, but then we have to be Goldman here. And we only really know who we are or where we are based on what people are calling us. Just like this, the whole movie I feel is filled with just subtle, brilliant things like that. Again, social commentary, just about the politics of the time and not even the time, politics in general and the societal acceptance. It's so good. I loved it.
And it touches on the whole politics of marriage and gay marriage in America by not actually defining it and talking about it. Because at that time, I've been with my husband for 16 years, but it wasn't for a large chunk of that where we weren't able to get married, So like I see and understand that portion of the story of putting on appearances and you got to play the roles and that sort of thing. But it transitioned into today's world. We're now looking back at this movie again. It's changed. The definition of the movie has changed for me. What I thought was comedy has now become more in tune with my experience, and it's not just funny, haha. It's like, holy wow, that's brilliant, brilliance. And like, I don't think there's any other actor other than Robin Williams that could have done that, and Nathan Lane together. I really don't think.
Like their chemistry is just so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, who else is out there like that you can think of? I can't think of.
I'll go back to Tom Hanks because he's come up a few times as the other option for a lot of Robin. Well, actually, just one Robin Williams role in Jumanji, but I do think of Tom Hanks as being a worthy other Robin for most of those roles from the
I'll
era.
agree with you in that tone, but you also remember in that period of time, he was fighting for that same cause as far as of LGBTQ rights and everything exposure, but he had just made Philadelphia. So
That's
he's
true.
on the other side of that.
Kind
He's
of
on
pit,
the
yeah.
nitty gritty side of
Yeah.
that, not so much the fun and funny haha side of it.
Yeah.
But I agree with you as far as like ability to be able to perform the role. Yeah, but I think he was on the other side of the coin.
Yeah, I also think sometimes if Tom Hanks had been in Robin Williams' role, because obviously I don't think I could see him as Albert. I just can't picture that in my head. I do
Be
think
bosom buddies all over
sometimes he can be a little too serious, and he can come across as greater than occasionally in scenes.
Yeah.
And so that's why this movie, you very much, there was no one specific star. The couple together was the star. Like Albert
they're like
and
a
Armand,
unit. You think of them
exactly.
together.
And so like I think Tom Hanks succeeds more in roles where he is the star, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see that.
Well, yeah, I think that's also how Tom Hanks is typically cast. But like when I saw I think it's called The Post. It's not a good movie. The Spielberg movie with him and Meryl Streep. I just remember sitting and thinking like, this is amazing. It's Tom and Meryl acting a scene together, and they're just so good, and they're just like giving scene partners. And I think it's like almost a very weird equivalent to Robin and Nathan Lane in this movie, just having two equal and opposed forces that aren't fighting to like dominate the attention or the screen time, but like that's just what makes them so good, because they're so giving to one another, and it's amazing. What was I gonna say? I can't remember. Here we go. Let's jump into Disney. Daddle brings up a fantastic point, which is that just Mike Nichols is so good at making films. I adore Mike Nichols. Like he did Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf as his first ever movie, and if that could be everyone's first movie, oh my gosh. Yeah, and I think the reason that this film works as well as it does is just because of how good Mike Nichols is with character pieces and with nuance. And presumably, like, he was at the forefront of bringing together the ensemble that I adore so much in this film. And yeah, good job, Mike Nichols.
He gave just the right amount of information about each of the characters. I mean, even down to the housekeeper. You're like, I would love to know more about your Guatemalan-ness. Like, I want to know. I want to know more.
And he has some of the best. He has some of the best one-liners too. Like, again, same thing. Like, I'm someone who likes to be barefoot, and I go, the shoes they make me fall down.
They make me fall down.
That is the best.
But even beyond the line, did you notice how he walked away and then he walked back in the shoes? Like,
oh yeah, his little duck walk that he does in the shoes. Oh my god! Like, and Hank Azaria, a straight man playing a gay role, and I am not mad at it. He's so good in this role. He brings what we want from this character. When he brings the tape and goes, "Come on, Gloria," and he like takes the little speaker away. I love it. And oh my god, I think this movie was what really, like, at that age I had a Gloria Estefan CD, and like I remember freaking out because he was singing Gloria Estefan. I was like, oh my god.
Wow, your household was conga happy, huh?
And this movie, I didn't realize what a good physical actor Hank Azaria is, because
right,
like you think Hank Azaria, you think voice, or at least I do, because Simpsons, obviously. But like the physical stuff he was doing in this was amazing.
So good.
Like just
and
the
he
shoes,
communicated heart and love too. Like he obviously cares for them. He's part of their family, and like he very much cares for everybody. He knew Val since he was little. Oh, he's the little one, like it's
And they all delivered the same level of tenderness, because I can say, like, let's say Hairspray, where who played the mother in Hairspray?
The first one, or the John Travolta one?
John Travolta. Yeah. Like, there's like he missed the boat on that a little. You know what I mean? As far as that level of tenderness and like that.
Yeah.
That could have easily have been that same level of energy that was delivered in this film, but they didn't do that. They didn't go over the edge with that. You know what I mean? It was a really nice, authentic delivery of what these characters should have been, and it could have strayed. Imagine if we did have John Travolta in that role and we had Tom Hanks as the couple.
I don't
No.
want to think of that.
That's the movie. That's the movie that doesn't work.
I kinda want to.
That's the movie that we look back on in another multiverse and say, why is this movie so problematic?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yes. My queer teenage Florida heart couldn't take
I could order Spartacus.
Yes. What Disney Now says a long way. Disney Now, that movie basically exists. It's called Jack.
Oh God, Jack
Yeah.
is so sad though.
I
That's the
know. I
depressing
can't.
version of Big.
I almost suggested Jack for this month, and I was just like, I can't watch it. I'll die.
I don't think I would have done it. I don't think I would have done
I
it.
can't.
But I mean, at least you see him graduate at the end with his
Yeah.
friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good times. Are these other Mike? Yeah, these are other Mike Nichols movies. The Graduate and Closer. Mike Nichols
Oh,
is so good.
Closer.
I know.
Mhm.
So
I love that movie
oh,
so much.
just all the movies. All the movies. I
Yeah.
love Mike Nichols. We should just do a Mike Nichols marathon next. I say that about everybody, but next is probably going to be Pirates. So there it is. The way he shares the camera. Oh my gosh, the cinematography in this movie.
Yeah.
Again, when I saw the name at the beginning, I looked him up because I knew I recognized it. It's the guy who did Children of Men, which is like renowned as one of the best shot films ever in terms of the cinematography. And you totally see it, how brilliantly visually composed this movie is. Just like the shots when Armand is talking in the mirror to, why do I keep forgetting Nathan's name? Albert. When Albert and Armand are talking in the mirror, and you just see the back of his head, but then you see the exchange, and then in the same shot he turns and then they pull the focus. I'm like, oh my gosh. It just flows so seamlessly. And it's not the type of movie that's shot to draw attention to the cinematography, because those movies annoy me, but it's just such a visually dynamic film. It's so good.
The dinner scene is, I think, famous for the way it's shot, or at least I was told that, because in high school we had to pick a scene from a movie to analyze in drama class as an example of really well done comedy. So me and a friend picked the dinner table scene with the bowls and the soup, not only because it's just a comedic masterpiece beginning to end, that whole scene, but apparently it was something about the way, I think it's one shot, and it's in the center of the table, the camera's in the middle of the table, and it's rotating, so you see everybody. There's something, I don't know if it's one shot, maybe I'm wrong, but certainly you could tell that the camera's in the middle of the table, and there are certainly very long shots where you just see Robin Williams going around spooning everybody the soup and frantically trying to keep it together. It's pretty amazing, and saying nonsense at the same time, just trying to talk and say whatever he could think of to distract everyone. It's shot so beautifully, and I think you would have to do it in I don't know. It's very powerful in that it's one shot, and you're just it's almost overwhelming, but at the same time, it's a very calm kind of I can't describe it. You should rewatch that scene. It's pretty.
Well, I'm going to rewatch that scene right away.
And I felt like they were able to keep that same energy into the kitchen when he was trying to figure out what the second course was. He was just he was up to here. He's F the shrimp, like that.
Yeah,
It was
Say,
awesome.
What is this anyway, or whatever? I don't know. I made
The-
it up. I made it up.
The sweet and sour.
The scene when he's leaving the kitchen, this was another thing I noticed on this rewatch. I always thought it was funny that he throws the shrimp in, but the way that Hank Azaria acts, his physical acting when he's sad and he goes,
and he's holding the shrimp. Wait, there's shrimps.
Yeah.
What got me in the kitchen scene was the son's reaction when he just has his little breakdown, just to have the character who's been the most together, all just out of nowhere, be
well, and
whatever
the
that
scene,
was in the corner.
that scene, he and
Hilarious.
Robin both, it shows them being father and son, I think,
Yeah.
because they both do the same thing. They're handing the champagne bottle back and forth, and they're chugging, and they're both leaning over the table, huffing and puffing, and they look like father and son, they're really acting the same.
The families were just so perfectly cast. I can't get over how well cast this movie is, but the family dynamic between both sets of families is just brilliant. The chemistry that they have, and the comedic timing, the relationship, and get like I want to give love again to Diane Wiest because I don't think she gets enough attention in her career in
she's
general.
so understated in this
Yeah.
movie, but yet that is what makes her character so perfect because she is supposed to be the subservient wife and all that. And then in the end, she really has to like kind of smack Gene Hackman and be like, "It's a man."
I'll explain it to you in the car.
When she breaks down to someone has to like me better. I'm like, oh, that hit me so hard.
Did anyone see The
mother
10th
cry.
Kingdom? That's the movie that made me love Diane Wiest.
No, but I want to. It's on my list because it's got one of those posters that looks like the Merlin poster. I'm like, I got to see it. It was in that.
I'm
it was
amazed
a
you haven't seen
right?
it. It's like without commercials, it's 7.5 hours long. It is Once Upon a Time, but better. But early 90s,
well, that's
like.
All right. Yeah, no, I know I have to check it out because, the poster, it was for sure the same setup as that Merlin series, which I really
for
loved.
sure. It's one, and Diane Wiest just carries it. From what I don't want to revisit it because I'm scared that it won't be as good as I remember. But, like from what I recall,
I'll watch it with you. It'll be
my
first time watching it, and if I hate it, I'll blame you and make you feel really terrible.
Oh, I can't wait. We'll just find 8 hours to just marathon our way through all of the 10th Kingdom. It's so good. But yeah, I love Diane Wiest. But not even just her and Gene Hackman. Again, everything that I think we've said about the dynamic between Nathan and Robin is the same with them. But like they're just so understated that it's easy to not appreciate how good the performances are that they're putting in.
Yeah, she can do no wrong in my opinion. She's the mom from Lost Boys, am I correct?
Yes, she is.
The mom from
forever in
Scissor
my
Hands.
heart.
I love it. Something cool too I thought about Gene Hackman is because we start the movie with Albert and Armand and Val, and we get to know them first, and then we meet Senator Keeley. I always want to say Senator Kelly, and I'm like, one of them's X-Men and one of them's Birdcage. But that Senator Keeley, I think, is kind of like a villain who doesn't know he's a villain.
Oh yeah.
You know, like oh yeah.
And then we get a happy
like
ending.
it's obvious. You know? Well, and then maybe he just sort of increasingly realizes. Well, I don't even know if he realizes until the very end. He's just confused the whole time, but he has no clue that like you're being positioned as like everything that is what we're against, and you have no idea.
Yeah,
it's interesting the way it plays out with him, I think.
Well, he easily delivers that Lex Luthor energy. You know what I mean? That kind of.
Yeah.
So it's. I'm sorry.
That's true. I did just see that Western. What's it called? The Quick and the Dead.
Power of the Dog.
No.
It's not The Quick and the Dead with is Sam Raimi directed.
Sam Raimi did a Western?
Yeah, am I crazy? The one with Sharon
I believe you.
Stone? Sharon Stone. Leo DiCaprio's like one of his early ones.
Oh, I was picturing this was recent.
Yeah, right?
I think it's The Quick and the Dead. I saw it for the first time recently, and Gene Hackman's like a real bad guy. As you, not unusual for him, but so maybe I'm bringing some of that energy into it.
Oh no,
I really enjoyed it. It was an experience.
Wow.
Aubrey says,
how interesting. I did look that up, and that was the year before. So what an interesting energy to have this, and then his next film is this, drag movie. Like, wow, that's interesting.
Because he's really despicable in The Quick and the Dead, so it's interesting to see him like quite like as much as he's the unwitting villain in this. Like he's kind of lovable in his. He's a
little affable
he's just
too.
Such a doofus.
He doesn't know what he's doing really.
Yeah, it's
Where's
so
the
endearing
candy?
when he opens up. Like it's so endearing. Like
he's just confused. Like that's the thing too, is that like at the end he's like, I don't understand what's happening. Like he's just completely out to lunch.
Confusion.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh, so much to love. What else did I want to talk about with this movie? Oh well, this is backtracking really far. Some like a thing that in the conversation, like what really stood out to me was realizing that this is a movie that was made at a time when like gay marriage was very much legally not a thing. And that scene when they're on the bench together and then like they're just doing I loved that scene so much.
The palimony agreement. It's
Yes.
just so
That touches
beautiful.
really close to me, because that's kind of what we had to end up doing for the first half of our relationship, is find loopholes to tell each other that we were committed, and it has nothing to do with anything other than here's what we got. You know what I mean? Like it was very similar in that tone as far as our journey. So to be able to see that representation, and then again seeing it now that we have been able to get married, we are in a different place in the world. We have things are not the same from '96. They're not a lot different, but they're not the same. So it was like a little thing in my heart that just got like lump when I saw that, because I forgot about the scene, truthfully, and all of a sudden I just saw the sunset in the back, the bus stop. It was just
the Carnival cruise ship.
Yeah, it was just like a very
That brought
calm, and it just hit me like, oh man, oh yeah, I forgot about that. So I think it was really great for them to include that in the film.
Yeah, no, just such a beautiful thing, and especially again just contextualizing it historically, because like obviously I remember when gay marriage was like definitely not allowed anywhere for the most part legally, but just the fact that now, especially I think since I'm in Canada, it's just such a normal thing.
Yeah,
just to think back to, wait, like this is all they could do. That's crazy. And like just the way that whole scene plays out, again going back to how good those two are together.
I think
so beautiful.
in reference to last week where we asked about like what would a 1 hour photo thing translate for a newer generation now, I'd be very interested again to hear what a person who has been a coherent functioning person, like let's say they were maybe 4 years old, 3 years old when gay marriage became legal. I would love to know what someone who's watching this for the first time through that lens thinks of this movie. Does it seem dated? Does it seem bizarre? Does it seem like drag has been on television for 10 years now? And like what of a person who is 15, 16, 17, 18, like what of them? What do they think that this movie looks like?
Not to devalue that scene, because it is important, but for somebody in that demographic, do they even need to see that at this point? Do they even need to see, because they're so ingrained with those relationships already occurring, and that
I think it makes it almost, I'm not a person of that age, but I think it might drive home the fact of it was not that long ago. That it was not. It was not legal. It was not accepted. This was real. This was not made up.
Yesterday.
This was a real thing people had to deal with, and it was not that long ago. So I do think that, I just really love to hear an opinion like that.
That's interesting.
Are any of the 11 of you watching of that age range? Let us type it.
Yes. Well, we had Morgie here earlier. If Morgie's still here, she said earlier in this conversation, I feel I'm too young
for this
to talk about
movie.
this. But really, I would love her to watch this and get back to us, because that's
I agree.
Like, she's like, we were talking about all this. She's like, I feel I'm too young for this. I'm like, no, really, this is the opinion I want to hear.
I find that interesting, because again, I only have the journey that I went through, and I only experienced what I experienced, through media and life and whatnot. So to be able to hear someone's take on their reality, not opinion of because things have changed, but their reality, that's all they've known. So I would love to see how I match up to that, because I feel like I grow and I change with what's changing around me, and it would be interesting if I actually am on board, you know what I mean, or am I still stuck in a mindset thinking that I'm advanced because of being stuck in this 90s exposure. And that's what I know, those are my formative years, those are my adult years, and now I'm just listening to other stories and not living those stories. So it'd be really interesting. I love that, Jeanette. I would love to have that conversation. Where is that person? Get him in here.
Exactly.
Rob Hunt says, I often wonder if younger people realize the gut punch that the AIDS epidemic was.
Thank you for saying that too. Again, my generation, all of the people older than me, my mentors, they don't exist. That generation was erased from 81 until 90, 98, 99, really. We lost a lot of people in the queer community, in the gay community, that we no longer have anyone to look up to my generation, the Gen X, and just above are what gay youth have now.
Mhm.
You know, we have the stories that we know that we have to talk about, like Birdcage. Like this is one of our historic tools to be able to
Yeah.
give to our youth, because we don't have the ability to go to older people and say, hey, tell me these stories, because they're not around anymore.
Yep.
You know, we have film, you know, and that's our responsibility. So that's why I think things like this are now that I'm an adult, I really appreciate them. Before, I thought they were a fun movie, and I want to own it and I want to put it on my DVD list.
Mhm.
But this is turned into something much larger than I really anticipated, I guess.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's why this, like, I agree with what you're saying from my perspective as a you know, straight cis woman who grew up. I was struggling to form words around my first experience with the movie because I don't want to misrepresent, you know, my family was very accepting and very loving, but at the same time, if you're sort of, you know, raised relatively Catholic in a suburb, you know, in
Yeah.
Etobicoke, you're just not exposed that, like, you know, I
Right.
know one gay person, and
Right.
you know, it's just not something that you have a lot of. We didn't have RuPaul's Drag Race every week, you know, like
Yeah.
when I was 18 and that was on TV, like I watched it every single
Yeah.
week, and since then, like
You were
it's
18 when it started?
what year did it start?
2009.
No, actually, I think that checks out.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember on television, like
Mhm.
on cable watching it. But that
Well-
but that being said, yeah, like it's just there wasn't that much content, and if you're not in that
Yeah.
culture, you
Mhm.
know, that your exposure is limited, and it's so important, I think.
Yeah.
And
I think
yeah.
somebody had said this earlier. I think it was Aubrey said that this movie showed her that it was okay
Mhm.
to be gay, to be queer.
Yeah.
I grew up in New Orleans. Plenty of gay culture in New Orleans. However, I was in the suburbs, and my family was pretty average. Like, we were mainstream. My parents didn't have any gay friends. Later in life, I saw this movie when I was 9. Not too terribly later, I started to realize that I was, and at the time thought I was bisexual. Now to know be pansexual. Like, I didn't have really a context for that, but I knew that that was okay, and that, like,
Mhm.
and because of this movie, I knew, like, my parents aren't gonna freak out because they don't
Yeah.
Yeah.
hate gay people. So,
I love
like, I'm
hearing
like,
that, because that was the beginning of that period of time to be
yeah,
able to give that permission. You know,
yeah.
to
And
give
so,
that.
like, I don't want to say that this movie made me feel like it was okay. It was an introduction to where I even had a basis for, like, oh, I understand that this might be like, my parents don't hate this. They think it's you know, this movie's funny. They think they don't think bad things. So, like, it was kind of in that vein of, it's your exposure to it,
Mhm.
especially like we said earlier in the conversation, drag. Like, if you don't seek that out until things like Drag Race were on TV, if you didn't seek it
Yeah.
out, you probably had not seen it.
Yeah.
So to be exposed to that, and even like the scene where Albert's like, oh, don't look at me, I'm hideous, and he's in like partial drag. Like, when did you ever see men in like partial drag? Like, you
Right.
didn't. This wasn't
Right.
something you saw in media.
Right.
So, like,
Mhm.
it's just exposure. We always talk about representation. I mean, this is representation out the
Mhm.
wazoo, I think. It's like,
Yeah,
you're seeing
and
it.
it was that little dot of time, because we also had,
Mhm.
again, Tu Wong Fu with Patrick Swayze. You know, we had this influx
Priscilla?
of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert was
Maybe?
also another
Oh,
one.
right,
Yeah, it was
Priscilla.
that same period of time.
Yeah.
Like, there was
Mhm.
this immersion of gay culture coming up, and again, not giving the permission to be any sexual orientation, but
Mhm.
giving permission to have a dialogue.
Yeah.
To have a voice and just acknowledge that I'm not the only entity and being on this planet. You know, like,
Yeah.
it's more than me.
Well, and to portray, like, to see Starina in the beginning of the Birdcage, having like a breakdown, or you know, some kind of meltdown, but not, you know, seeing a man in drag, and it's not a it has nothing to do with sex. I
Mhm.
think that
Yeah.
was the big
Yeah,
thing,
good point.
actually, and noticing in this movie that, and I think we could say that the fact that there's no sex or physical intimacy between the two men. That is on the one hand a negative thing. I think we could say, like, now I would be like, why aren't they kissing? Like, you know, is that a point against it?
Yeah, no, they don't.
But on
kiss
the other side of the scale, it's such an intimate movie.
Yeah.
Like,
We're not making it about that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that all the dialogue around, you know, around drag had to do, like, if you think about Friends, it has so much to do with sex in there and their fear of homophobia, or there's so much fear of homophobia. Their homophobia in Friends. It's all about Chandler's homophobia and his relationship with his father. And that's such a, I think it's destructive that it's always associated with, I don't know, that like stuff that we
really
don't want to talk
interesting.
about. Like why do we want, I don't want to talk about this. I want to see her perform. I want to see, I don't know. It's not about that.
I never associated that Friends was actually, like you're saying, dealing with all of that homophobia.
Yeah.
At the same time, this Birdcage and Tu Wong Fu and Priscilla were coming out at the same time, combating what, and the Friends wasn't even being like, you know, flamboyant about it. They weren't putting it in your face. It was just so common that that's the route that they were going to take with this dialogue and this content, that it was going to be homophobia, that it became such commonplace. So I think it's really great to see that they were delivering other movies and media at the same time that were I don't want to say balancing it out, but combating what we were seeing in our living room.
This is about their real experiences. This is about their relationship. It's not just about I have sex with men, or you know, that seems to be where everybody wants to go with it, or wanted to go with it at the time.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a really good point.
Like, I never connected the Friends thing, but that is such a eye-opening, I think, comparison. I think I feel like Chandler's dad hasn't aged well at all with Kathleen Turner's everything. And it's almost the exact same time period. It's the exact same narrative setup almost, just to have the straight, like, more naturally conservative son of a drag artist and trying to come to terms with that. But I think Friends is an example of when you give into the tropes and the ignorance of the 90s versus Birdcage.
Well, and also remember, Friends is stolen from Living Single. You know, it's a complete that whole show.
What? I don't
Living
know this.
Single is a show that was that aired before Friends. It didn't do well because it was all black cast. Friends took the concept, rewrote it, and became Friends. So even the content of Friends isn't even original, and how they went about it. And honestly, I'll be honest. I didn't even find it problematic until years down the line. You know, reviewing it and looking back. Try watching it without the laugh track. That changes everything. You know? Wow.
Yeah,
it's the case with pretty much every sitcom. It's an eerie.
It just turns into a mean show. You got to check it out.
Oh my gosh! But I think I just also think the beautiful thing about this movie, the mainstream element, the exposure that it was giving, like Jeanette and everyone was saying. I think now, like, the culture is different also because we have the internet and so many more voices are able to go create content, and there is so much more out there. But just to have this specific film made and this story told by, like, the best people in their respective fields at the time, like the cinematographer we had, the director, and then this cast, not even just making the story, but I think the amount of talent behind just a comedy film is something we don't even see now. Because I think comedy has become its own genre that doesn't have as much integrity now as it did in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. Because now when you think of comedy films, I think of, like, Bridesmaids, I would say, is probably the closest in recent memory as being a comedy that I feel has a little bit more integrity, for lack of a better word. But then when you think of movies like, we're just put Melissa McCarthy, who I love as an actor, I think she's amazing, but the Melissa McCarthy brand that has kind of evolved of, let's just put her in another crazy wig and sell the movie based on her doing this crazy slapstick humor. I'm like, that doesn't have the same oomph that comedy like Birdcage has.
Wow.
That's
Robin.
This is kind of like
I
was going to say that this strikes me as a romantic comedy, but it's interesting that the romance is between two middle-aged men. It's like I would, you know, normally when I think romantic comedy, I want to think like I don't know, two young like superstars.
Well, and it's funny you say that.
like,
I typically don't like romantic comedies, and I never thought of it that way. But it kind of
I feel
Yeah.
it's a romantic comedy.
yeah, and you don't see them a lot between like a married couple, and I essentially, you know, I view them as a married couple. At least that's what their relationship is, I think, told to us as. And so a middle-aged gay married couple basically in a romantic comedy. It's
And even beyond
really
that, like
cool.
it's a romantic comedy, but it's really a story of love, of those two people in love loving their child. You know, and it's like it's so layered and so deep into what the story truly is, but it's delivered with just that perfect cherry on top that you can just look at it as a comedy if you want to. You can just watch it and laugh if you want. But if you really want to take a step back and look at the bigger picture, hold on to your pearls because you're going to go deep. You know, it's this like really like there's a lot being presented to you, you know, in a very short period of time. It's what, an hour and 50 minutes.
It's not a terribly long movie. No.
You know, and we're able to talk this length of time over what we saw. We didn't go detail to detail, frame to frame. This is just how we feel about it. So look at what they were able to deliver in 96. You know, like and we're talking about it in 2022. You know, that's beautiful. That's really cool.
I feel like Nathan Lane as Mother Coleman in, you know, in drag is such a good microcosmic example of the movie as a whole, because it's so inviting and welcoming, but ready to talk openly and honestly about everything. And that's what we find charming about Mother Coleman, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Even if it's uncomfortable, you still want to talk about it. You still want to be engaged in it because there's heart. There's a reason for you. There's integrity behind it. And I'm so happy we had this conversation. This is this is great. This is awesome. Thanks, guys.
Oh, it's not over. Well,
no, I'm just saying it. It's been really cool.
Oh no, absolutely. What was I going to say? I can't remember. Is there anything we haven't touched on that we want to address before we go to the game?
Game time.
Woo!
Oh yeah, Rosie, there's a game. You should. I assumed you'd figure it out. You've watched the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. So,
Do we need a writing utensil?
yeah. So this is a game where you have to write a different answer for every answer.
Okay.
As it were. I'm going to call the game Name That Bird. Make my little score sheet. Here we are. All right. So how the game tonight will work is I'm going to tell you an actor. You have to tell me the bird-inspired movie that they starred in or acted in.
Okay.
Yes. So the title of the movie will always have a bird in it. Sometimes it's the word bird. Sometimes it's a type of bird.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we have to tell you the actor?
No, I'm going to tell you the actor. You have to tell me their bird
we have to
movie.
tell you the bird movie.
Yeah,
okay.
the bird movie. Yeah. I tried to pick, well, actually, I didn't try to pick easy ones. I picked ones that existed because there aren't as many bird-themed movies as you would expect.
I love your honesty.
Yeah. Some of them are easy, just some of them aren't. Okay. Oh, here we go. So we'll start with someone, because I like to think of Ally McBeal as the Walmart brand Michelle Pfeiffer. So we'll start with Michelle Pfeiffer. What was Michelle Pfeiffer's bird-inspired movie?
That's not a bird. That's a mammal.
This is
one of my favorites.
This is my Kristen Zaza free space.
I almost said Batman.
I don't know how I knew. I was just like, this is a movie she's seen.
Yeah, I was like,
I know she loves.
It's Batman, but bats aren't birds.
No, they're rodents. They're like little flying dogs.
Gosh.
Wow.
Dogs aren't rodents, Matt.
I know. Well, I'm a cat person. In my mind.
Michelle
Pfeiffer.
Oh, I'll bring the cat at some point.
Oh yeah, bring the cat. Bring Vincent.
He knows I want to now, so he's being shifty.
Okay.
All right, everyone have their answers.
I'm sure.
Kinda.
All right, let's go in 3, 2, 1.
Oh no! See, mine doesn't make sense because she's a pink lady and not a T-bird.
Yeah, Kristen Zaza got the point. It's Lady Hawk.
Oh man.
There we are. Next, Natalie Portman.
Oh gosh.
Natalie Portman.
I'm gonna kick myself. I feel like I know every Natalie Portman movie.
Oh,
and
you
now
will
I'm
kick yourself.
Natalie
oh no!
Portman.
Hold on. Oh no! Ah.
I encourage those in the chat to play along as well.
Yeah, I
Like, this is
encourage you
probably-
to play along,
this-
especially if you know this answer.
It's probably the hardest game I've come up with in this whole series.
Oh my god, I'm gonna kick myself. Oh my
Come
God.
on, Jeanette. So says Disney Dado.
Oh gosh, he's gonna kick me. I know it.
Did you look at the chat?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. I was trying to go through her career in my head, and I was like, "Wait, who?"
Yeah,
What?
Yeah, it's a
Terrible.
pretty big one.
Yeah. 3,
Yeah.
2, 1.
Mine is the professional bird. It has a beak suit.
I like it.
Well,
Because you said
spiritual
closer
point.
earlier. I kept going back to closer in my head. I was like, "That's not a dang bird."
I forgot she was in. Oh yeah, she's the other
Oh
girl.
my
in
god,
Closer.
she's what made me watch Closer.
Who are the guys? Jude, is it Jude
Clive
Law or
Owen
Ewan?
and Jude
Clive.
Law.
Okay, as I've said multiple times, Jude and Ewan in my head, they're the same guy. All right, yeah, the chat did really well. Good job, birthday girl Martha. Bob New, well done. All right, next, Jack Nicholson.
Oh. How long I'm writing for should be a clue to anybody who doesn't know.
Yeah.
I'm
Right,
sure I
let's go.
spelled this word wrong. But
3, 2, 1.
I said cuckoo bird.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is what we were looking for.
Oh, I thought we were trying to type of bird.
Oh well, okay. I'll give you the point.
I know that he has a nest.
Yeah, that's true. He does. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, you got a point. There it is. Next, Margot Robbie.
Oh.
Oh, Disney Daddle likes my game. This game is great.
Oh wait, I do know this. What the heck is it?
Bob and Martha both knew Cuckoo's Nest. Very good. Margot Robbie.
No.
Maybe I don't know this. Was she in a movie? No.
With a bird.
Okay.
Granted, I don't know if there are actual birds in this movie. I think most of these
No.
movies don't actually have birds in them. Actually, I'm
That's a-
assuming Lady Hawk is about Michelle Pfeiffer turning into a hawk. Is that what it's about?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
She turns into a hawk. Rutger Hauer turns into a wolf, and it's a fantastic movie.
Can't wait.
I'm gonna watch it tonight.
Oh no, rewatch Cats.
I will.
No,
I'll do
gosh.
that too.
Well, no, we're gonna attack Cats on at the end of the Sondheim month. Whenever. we
Oh
do it.
my. Good.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, at special request of
I
Kristen.
haven't watched it.
That was her stipulation.
I
No
love
matter
it.
what composer you pick, put Cats at the end. I was like, deal. Okay,
That's
let's see our
hilarious.
answers. 3, 2, 1.
Birds of prey.
Yeah, Birds of
Oh
Prey.
gosh darn it! I don't
It
watch
just
those
came out. I
DC
think. I don't know.
movies.
I think the full title is something like Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn story, or something like that.
I kept
Um,
thinking Suicide Squad. I'm like, no.
Oh, you were so close. Still,
I
close.
know, no joke.
Leah Thompson.
Oh yes. Done.
Wow, I'm impressed.
I know. I'm like, wait, what? It's not the Parent Trap. Isn't that her?
What?
Leah Thompson.
Who is that in there? I'm thinking of
Thompson,
a different
no.
person. Oh no, Leah Thompson. Oh, I know who that is. I'm thinking of whatever Emma. Is it her name? Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson. That's a very
Maybe
different
that's
person.
who. Yeah. Okay.
Very
I do know
different
who you're
person.
talking about now, though. Now I'm trying to think.
Yeah, she's the. I don't want to say who she is.
Yeah.
I guess I can because it's not her bird movie. She's the mom in Back to the Future.
Yeah. Huh.
This is the bird movie that ruined her career after Back to the Future.
I feel like I should know this now. but-
There's a reason
Bird
she was
movie
so
that
good in
ruined
Back
her
to the Future,
career.
and then we saw her in nothing else and it was this movie.
Okay.
Okay, let's go. 3, 2, 1.
Howard the Duck.
Yeah, it's Howard the Duck.
Oh, gosh darn it! God, I'm kicking myself this whole game.
All right, next.
Rosie's kicking butt.
That's the honestly,
Rose-
it's like one of those situations where I had this VHS in the 80s and only watched it because it was around. And this is now 2022 and I finally get to use my my
Yeah.
knowledge of how
It paid off. I need to
30
see
years
it.
later.
It's Leah Thompson, and it's I can't remember the name of the guy who plays Howard. He's one of my
I
favorite
don't
people.
know his actor.
The guy who plays Howard originated The Baker and Into the Woods on Broadway. So if you've seen the VHS with Bernadette Peters, it's that guy. And I adore him. And he's one of my favorite actors just because of Into the Woods, because he's so good. But he's fantastic. But Howard the Duck probably killed his film career.
Not as good as Lady Hawk, but you should go
No,
check it out.
Next. Saoirse Ronan or
There we
Saoirse.
go.
Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse.
She's the one. Clarissa.
Oy.
She did a cute little song on Saturday Night Live when she was on there about how to spell and pronounce her name.
Yes.
It's very funny. Oh my god.
Oh, it was her version of Liza with a Z or Liza with a Z.
Oh, is that what that? Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize. I just love it.
All right. Do we all have our answers?
Yes.
3,
Yeah.
2, 1.
I don't know.
Lady Bird. It's
Still
like a
never
lady
seen it.
who's a
I just-
bird.
Yeah,
No.
me neither.
Yeah, no, at the beginning, she like gets in trouble at school because her art project is she does a collage where she cuts off like the image of a bird head and puts it on the body of a woman, and then they're like, "What is this?" She's like, "It's a lady bird, and that's my name. I am the lady bird." And that's what the movie is. But yeah, Greta Gerwig, you're talented. We love you. I did enjoy Little Women. Little Women is fantastic, and she's also in that. Next, Humphrey Bogart. Let's go with him. Oh, Kristen knew this one was coming.
Keep waiting for
Why
you.
did you say that?
Oh, because I saw you with such
Oh,
immediacy. Like, write it down.
Wait, what's the actor again?
Humphrey Bogart.
I think I got it.
Yes, of Casablanca and
Yeah,
Sabrina.
which is
with Audrey
all I
Hepburn.
can think of right now.
It was such a good movie, Casablanca. My gosh.
Oh, is he? Oh, maybe he's in this, and I just don't know it because I don't know old movies very well.
Okay, let's go.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Maltese
Oh, I
Falcon.
guessed it! Yay!
I don't know what my spelling is like, but I did it.
You all got it. It's the Maltese Falcon.
Yay!
It's such a confusing movie. I did not enjoy watching it the one time I did.
Isn't that the way with most of these older movies, though? It's like,
Usually
oh,
I
should
like
watch it.
them. Usually I like them, but no, not that one.
Oh my gosh.
Michael Keaton.
Oh, love this movie. Such a good movie.
Again, reminding
Oh my
all,
God.
bats are not birds.
Yes, exactly. I know. I'm not trying to go Batman this time.
Michael Keaton?
Yes, and this movie is so stinking good. Oh my god. I think one of Emma Stone's best. Oh, I just gave something away. Sorry.
We want to talk about movies where the cinematography is a little too self-aware and full of itself.
I don't even know if this is a thing.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
shots fired from that Yipchuk. Oh.
Sure, I did it. Let's go. 3, 2, 1.
Birdman?
Yeah, it's Birdman.
Oh, that was such a good movie, though.
I did enjoy Birdman. I fell asleep in the theater watching it, but only for like a minute. I woke back up.
Yeah.
It was good. Tippi Hedren.
Yes, I knew you were going to get there eventually. Is it? Oh, is there a? I can't remember if there's a prefix. Okay, I am. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
I said the birds.
The birds. Yeah.
The
Oh, it's
Birds.
the birds. Oh.
No, but it's
Yeah.
birds. I wrote
Okay.
birds, and I was like, "Is there a
I
the?"
drew birds. Does that help?
That counts. That counts. I imagine if the movie was just birds.
Like cat.
or just singular bird.
Birds. There's a whole like a bunch of English teachers got angry at that movie because the poster said "The Birds is coming,"
Oh.
and then they were like, "No, Alfred, it's the birds are coming." I'm like, and I actually don't know who was right there.
It could be
I don't know who was
regional,
right.
you know.
Okay, finally for the normal round, before we move on to the bonus round,
Oh.
I don't know if any of you will get this, but I also wouldn't be surprised if all of you got it for different reasons. Here we go. Michael Crawford.
Don't know who that is.
I do, but
It's still a movie, yes? It's not like a
Oh, it's a
stage
movie.
production? Okay.
What's a movie?
Okay.
Michael Crawford.
It's a Disney movie, I think.
Is it animated?
Oh, wait. Is this
Tell
a
me that.
movie? Why am I making this up in my head? I'm making this up. I'm pretty sure I'm making
Oh, this
this
should have
up.
been the bonus
Yeah, I'm
question.
gonna try something.
This
but
is
I
the
think
Yeah,
vibe
it's
I always
wrong.
want for my bonus questions. This should
Is
have been the bonus question.
Is this an older thing?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen this movie.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure this is wrong on all counts.
Pretty sure I made this up and I'm having a fever dream. But
Let's see. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I said
Pebble and the
Phantom of the
Penguin.
Birdcage.
Phantom of the Birdcage. Flight the Albatross? Is that what you said?
Albatross, yeah, it's something that I remembered and I don't know.
Do you, Disney Dado, do you,
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
Disney Dado, who, what is it? Tell us.
Tell us. What is it?
Oh, see, Bob Hunt knows.
He says Bondo. Oh, can I write it now?
Oh,
Clue
come
of
on.
Bondo?
Nope, it's too late. It's too late. I want to see if Disney Dado knows.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he does, but now I know. Yeah. Condor something. Condor something. It's
Yeah.
Condor Man.
Condor Man.
Wow. Yeah,
Oh my
I've
God.
never heard of that.
I honestly haven't heard of it either, but Bondo Chris Bond, of like the founder of the We Like Theme Parks podcast, adores that movie,
Yeah.
and he talks about it anytime he can.
Yeah.
And yeah. I still haven't seen it. I don't know if I ever care to, but yeah, Condor Man. All right. Then I need to I need to fact check something before we move into our bonus round.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm ashamed because I would have known if all this time the Pebble and the Penguin was Disney. I know that
Yeah.
it's
I
not.
know, and I was literally here. I am. I'm always ready when people are like, "Anastasia's Disney." I was like, "No, it's not."
No, it's
Yeah, I
not.
know.
Right there.
Yeah.
I'm like, "No, it's not."
Right. Here we go. These are how many points you have, and you get to pick how many you want to wager for the final question. Jeanette, you have 6.
Okay.
Rosie, you have 6. Kristen Zaza, you have 8.
Ooh, ring a ding ding.
Those so many bird movies. How
What
many
can I
would we-
say? I like bird movies. Not especially.
Well, how many of your bird points would you like to wager, Kristen Zaza?
All of them.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Ooh,
I love that.
Wow.
Rosie.
Get rid of them.
I'm gonna go all in.
All right. Jeanette.
You know I am. All
There we
in.
go. Brilliant. Okay. Same format. I give you an actor, you tell me their bird movie. Now, to kind of keep in with the theme of drag artistry, your actor is Divine.
Oh,
What was Divine's bird movie? Everyone seemingly knew that right away. Thought this would be hard. Condor Man should have been the bonus question. Okay, whatever. Oh, none of you got it though, so never mind. All right. Do we all have our Divine Bird movie?
Yeah.
I believe so.
Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Yes, of course it's Pink
Flamingo.
Flamingos.
That's
I'm so impressed you all knew that. Good job.
awesome. Good job.
Is that the movie where Divine like eats the poop?
I believe so. Yeah.
Is that? No, yeah, it is. That's the red
Yeah,
dress.
it's Pink
Is that the
Flamingo,
red-
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. The only movie I've seen Divine in is Original Hairspray. I keep meaning to like do a John Waters
So good.
like personal Matt movie marathon. No, I've seen Pecker, but Divine wasn't in that. But well, like, what is Pink Flamingos even about, and why does Divine eat the poop? That's my question. I can find this out after. I'll watch it. It'll be fine. Yes. Yeah, like I'm sure it makes sense in the context of the movie. Like, why? Why does it happen? Just need to know. So many questions.
Punk rock. That's why.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe
What
it.
could be more punk?
That's the best answer to anything.
Like, why did she eat the poop? Punk rock. Okay. Actually, same. Like, why did Ozzy bite the head off that bird? Punk rock.
Metal.
Punk rock.
Yeah,
metal,
that's
why.
true. I was like, I don't know.
I don't know enough about music. There it is. All right. Well,
Heavy
this has
metal.
been a delight. Anything that we didn't discuss with the Birdcage that we would like to discuss?
I think we discussed it.
Yeah, honestly, I
Love.
really enjoyed the conversation. I think thank you guys for
so
being
good.
willing to have this an open dialogue about a movie that's been around for so long and that's changed, with us as we go along. And to be able to have that with you guys was really a cool experience. So thank you.
Yeah.
It was. Oh, thank
It
you.
was good to commiserate about a movie that I really do love so very, very, very much. And it's such a big part of like my dialogue, like just my normal vocabulary.
That's so cool. That's awesome. Like, what would be another one like that that's up there with you? Like Birdcage, and then what would be like your other quotable
Honestly,
movie?
quotability, I don't know that there is another one for me that's like right there. I think maybe Fifth Element for me, but it's only like two things in the whole movie. But like that, it's in that thing of that pantheon of movies that just like the images and the words live in my brain all the time, and it's what I relate things to. Like
Joel, are very similar. I fall into like the oh my god, Corbin a lot when I get overwhelmed. Oh my god, Corbin, oh my god. I love it.
Oh, I didn't even ask everyone's favorite quote. That's what we'll close with. We'll do a go around. Tell me your favorite quote from the Birdcage. I can't think of one. No, I should have written it down. There was one moment that I laughed so hard at, and it was such a subtle thing. It might have been the toothbrush. How Egyptian? No, it wasn't that. I can't remember. I don't have a favorite quote. They were all fantastic. Rosie, what's yours? What's your favorite quote in the Birdcage?
I think it was more of a quote in a moment is when the son was telling him that he was going to get married, and he took a drink of the wine, and without skipping a beat, he took the slug and just looked at him and said, "I'll tell you why." Like there was no breath, there was no pause. It was just a full glass of wine and right into conversation. Like I just loved that moment. If you guys ever look back at that movie, it was one of the best. I don't want to call it acting. It was just he was there. He was playing the part. It was really funny.
Kristen, favorite quote?
It might be everything surrounding the Pirin tablets, but
That was
especially
it. That was it.
especially just the seriousness with which Nathan Lane says, if it wasn't for the Pirin tablets, I don't think I could go on. Because and watching it today too, I had so many layers of like, what a statement to the power of the mind,
Yeah,
Like,
right.
It's so deep. It's so deep when you get into it. But and that Agdor, the calmness of just like, you've already had one, just a half, like that he's buying into her drama so much. I just love everything about the whole concept of the Pirin tablets.
Yeah, that was mine. Thank you for reminding me the Pirin tablets. Oh, I love it. Jeanette.
So I think my two that I quote the most, I think, are the shoes they make me fall down and the I pierce the toes. But the one that I think that I think I actually use in real life, and I know I've said it in like my job, like instructing people how to cook. I said, just subtract, don't add.
Yes.
Just subtract. And like that's been a thing for me. Like I think that is a more applicable one. Like I do quote the other two a lot, but that one is extremely applicable too.
That's funny.
It's Playboys. That's
also-
what they have in there. Yes.
I also want to remind everyone of the actually it was perfect. I just never realized John Wayne walked like that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah. So
Oh,
perfect.
It's all I think about when I see John Wayne now. All I think about is Nathan Lane.
Oh my gosh, I love
That's
that.
funny.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, this is why I need to watch the movie with people instead of just by myself in my living
Yeah, it really
room.
does change it. I feel like you get a totally
Yeah.
different vibe, totally different energy. Yeah.
Definitely. But I still enjoyed it. Still loved it. I'll rewatch it like within the next 10 years. It won't take me 10 years to revisit it. So delightful. All right, friends. So you know what we're going to do. I'm going to put you on the screen. Tell the nice people watching who you are, what you have coming up, anything you want them to know, really, even if it's just like a life philosophy.
Hey, so you can catch me, TinkerJ787 on Instagram. I am on We Like Theme Parks. You can catch us on Tuesday evenings. Soon to be Dole Whip Darlings. More news on that to come when that will be. And you can catch my Instagram and see all my lovely trips to Disney. I've been lacking on my Marvel Mondays, but I'm going to catch back up on that next week. And yeah, so find me there.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jeanette. Always a pleasure.
Hi, I'm Kristen. I have a podcast called On a Dark Cold Night. It's a weekly audio drama, bedtime ghost story podcast. So I tell relaxing, somewhat scary stories where I muse about my thoughts on life and things that I love that are usually creepy. You can find it at kristenzaza.com/podcast. You can find it on any podcast app or via the Sonar Network. And yep, as for general life thoughts, because Matt threw that at us, and I'm like, I'm going to take him up on it.
Nice.
What will I say? I'm just trying to be. What do I want to say? I'm just trying to be. No, I'm trying to be the love that I want to see in the world, and just let's remember that love is behind everything, and that's all. That's what I'll say.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kristen.
That was actually beautiful. It was really nice. Hey, I'm Rosie, and I have We Like Theme Parks Puppets, and you'll find me on the Disney Nerdy Network. I'm supporting shows that are on the network, like Dole Whip Darlings that is coming up. We also have the We Like Theme Parks podcast. There are a couple of other shows hosted by Gene Manny that are coming up as well. Maybe Jeanette can help me out with the names of those guys. But yeah, check me out on Instagram at We Like Theme Parks Puppets and Hey Rosie. That's my other more personal Instagram. So thanks, guys.
Delightful. Thank you, Rosie. And yes, if you're watching this, it's my channel. You know this. There's always like 9 of you left at this point. So you're probably like the 9 people who watch all my new videos. So thank you for that. Please watch the Pinocchio trailer review that I did, because that's a thing that I did. And I'm pretty sure that Pinocchio is meant to be dead in this new movie. And I have a lot of thoughts on that, but I did a video about that. You can watch it. But until next week, everyone, thank you for joining us. We will be back for the grand finale of the Robin Williams movie marathon 1 week from today, where we will be discussing Mrs. Doubtfire. Is it the Equus? We'll find out together. Thank you for joining us. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and this has been the Tea Cup for One. Thank you, friends. How do I end?